at some more sentences where we are determining whether or not we're using the relative pronoun or the interrogative pronoun and translate them. Copia. Here's our pronoun. Virtutum. Iuvabit. Nostrum. Civitatem. Put this in focus a little bit better. That's better. So copia, then our pronoun, virtutum, iuvabit, nostrum, civitatem. All right, let's find our verbs. So we've got one verb in this sentence, iuvabit. Iuvabit, that ending here, the T, that's telling me that we are in third person singular. Okay, that BI here is telling me, because iuvo, iuvere is a first conjugation verb, that BI is telling me, it's acting as a tense indicator that we are in future. So third person singular, it's going to be it, he, or like she. One of those things, they will do what? Iuvo, iuvere, this is to help, to assist. He, she, it will help. Okay, great. Now we have a verb. We have an indication of I have an indication of what our subject will be. It will be singular. So we need to look for something singular to act as our subject here in a moment. So we have he, she, it will help. What will they help? We need a direct object to help. So we need to look for things that are in the accusative. Okay, we need a direct object. The am here and the em here. This is telling me that I have accusatives. Accusative, accusative. Nostrum here. This is a personal pronoun adjective. So nos is the nominative plural form of ego. So we. Nostrum. This is from noster, nostra, nostrum. That's the personal adjective. So like we, our. So this is an accusative. Our. It's working as an adjective there, modifying a verb, or sorry, not a verb, a noun. And the noun is civitatem. So this is going to come from civitas, civitatis, which is a third declension feminine noun, as you can tell by the modifier here. This is indicating feminine. This noun is also feminine. Excuse me. So it means the community, city, town, state, the citizens even. So we'll put in community, and we'll change that if we need to. So our community. Okay, so he, she, it will help what? Our community. All right, so word tutum up here, that is going to make us immediately think in terms of like first, second declension. Oh, that must be a masculine accusative, so that should go in with our community. But actually, this is a third declension noun here, virtutum. That is a third declension. It is a neuter, sorry, not neuter, it is a feminine noun. And this is the genitive plural form. So genitive and plural form, and it's from virtus, virtutus, strength, power, courage, bravery, mighty works even, okay? So we'll put courage, strength, courage. So copia is copia, copiae, first declension feminine noun meaning abundance. So this form is either going to be a nominative singular form or an ablative singular form. There's nothing else in here that's going to tell us that it's an ablative. We don't have any kind of preposition or anything like that. So odds are it's not an ablative. It's a nominative singular. Also, we need a singular subject here for ayuvabit. Ayuvabit is telling us it has a singular third person subject, but we don't have a subject for ayuvabit in the text yet. So copia is that subject, okay? So there's not a question mark at the end of our sentence here. So odds are this is not going to be an interrogative pronoun. It's going to be a relative pronoun, okay? So that means, first of all, we can go like this, and we can isolate this thing of which virtutum ayuvabit is its own little clause here. Oops, sorry, not ayuvabit. Does not include that. We have, because that has an object outside of the clause, we have an implied sumasse in here. So copia, so this is copious, this is an abundance. Cornucopia comes from this, abundance. Abundance, it will help our community. Abundance of which, so remember in relative pronouns, also in interrogative pronouns, we need to match our antecedent, which our relative pronoun here needs. It needs an antecedent. We need to match it in gender and number, but not necessarily in case. Of which here is telling us that we are going to need a genitive form of our relative pronoun. And copia is feminine, so we're going to need to go down the singular, and it's singular, so the singular feminine line. Quies, that's our genitive here. So of which courage, of which is courage, okay? Which is courage. So an abundance of which it is courage will help our community. Where did my pen go? An abundance of what? Oops, there's my pen. Abundance of which is courage. Will help, referring back to abundance being the subject of ayuvabit, will help what? Our community, our citizens. Okay, great. Let's do another. Literae. Which habes non sunt mei. Okay, what do we have here? So let's find our verbs. Habes. That s at the end is telling us what? That this is a second person singular. So you. So we don't need to find a subject for habes because you is the subject of habes. This is a second conjugation, habeo habere. You have, you hold. So this is a present tense. You have. Okay. And then what's the other verb here? Non-sunt. Non is just a negation here, saying that it's not this. NT is telling me that I have a third person plural. This is from Sum essay, present. They are not. So we will need to find what the subject is here. Who are they? We need to figure out who the they is. They are not. Okay. So we have our two verbs here. We can go ahead. We know that we are going to have, this is going to be a relative, not an interrogative. We don't have a question here. So we need to find out, so we know it's going to be a relative, but we need to figure out, what case it is. Let's go ahead and do this. Bloop, bloop. We're going to put our little relative there into its own clause, which includes from the beginning of the relative to the verb. Okay, so the literae here, this is going to be either the genitive singular or the dative singular or the nominative plural of litera, literae. Since we have a verb down here that is third person plural, I'm going to go ahead and say that this is going to be our nominative plural. Letters. Letters as in like a legit, like letters that you have written to someone, or epistles or things like that is what it's referring to here. So letters, they are not what? May I. So like nostrum, this is another personal possessive adjective or pronoun. So meaning my. Okay, so it's either going to be genitive singular, so mea, mea, mei, meam, mia. It's either going to be like a genitive singular, a dative singular, or a nominative plural. It's going to be referring to and modifying literae up here. It's going to be a nominative plural. So it's talking about they are not my letters. Okay. So that's our main clause here. They are not my letters. Now we know that this is going to be right here. This is going to be a relative pronoun. And this relative pronoun needs to have an antecedent, which would be literae right here. That's the noun that comes right before it. So it's referring back to the letters. So what do relative pronouns need to do? They need to agree with their antecedent in gender and in number, not necessarily in case. So the subject here in this little relative clause is already stated. It's already you. You are the subject of the verb. So which you have means that habes here needs to use which as the object. It needs to be acting on which here. So that means that which needs to be in the accusative. So we need, literas here is a plural feminine. So we need to refer to our chart here that has our relative pronouns on it. We need a feminine, and we need a plural and accusative. Quas. This is the pronoun we need to use. Quas. So our full sentence is, literae quas habes non sunt meae. So the letters which you have they are not mine. The letters which you have, they, meaning the letters, they are not mine. They're not my letters. All right, let's look at another one. So Virgo, day, which is whom, or not which is, but our pronoun here is going to be whom, DK boss. In another pronoun, we have another complex one here, which in which via vivid. So we have two possible pronouns or interrogatives here. And so it could be both are interrogatives. It could be one is an interrogative and one is a relative. We have a question mark here at the end. So at least one of these is going to be an interrogative. Let's start with our verbs. So we have vivid here. That T at the end, that's telling us that we have a third person singular. Okay. This is from vivo, vivere. That's a third conjugation verb. So what do we know about third conjugation is that it uses an I in the present tense. So this is a present active indicative. So vivo vivere is to be alive, to live, survive, reside. So we will take this as he, she, it lives. It lives, present active, okay? So we need to find out what is the third person singular thing that lives. All right, what's the other verb? DK boss. That S at the end is telling us that it's a second person singular. And this is from dico dicere, which is another third. This BA right here is a tense indicator. It's telling me that we are in imperfect, okay? So you were or used to, dico dicere is to speak. You were speaking. Okay. So let's go ahead and do this. We're going to take this verb and put it into a clause with this relative right here. We're including its preposition because it's part of the pronoun itself. Okay, so we're go in another either relative or interrogative. Via vivet, that's our main clause here, and this is our little relative clause. So Virgo is a noun in the third declension, meaning maiden, young woman, and this is the it's a feminine, and this is the nominative singular form. So we know that because in the third declension, it's Virgo, Virginis, Virgini, Virginum, Virgine, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. This form right here is only in the nominative singular. So this Virgo is the subject of vivid right here. So the maiden, she lives. Okay. The maiden. Need to get some finer tipped vis-a-vis pens because these are splatty. So the maiden, she lives. Great. Okay, so that is the kernel of the sentence there, but we need to flesh out that sentence a little bit more because there's a lot more. One, there's a lot more words. Two, we need to add some more information to the sentence. So here, we can either have, with this preposition right here, we can either have an ablative or we can have an accusative. How do we know which one we need? So some things that indicate whether or not we have an ablative versus an accusative would be what does our verb look like? Is it a verb that is showing location within something, or is it a verb that's showing motion towards something? If it's motion towards something, we're going to use an accusative. If it's not, it's most likely going to be an ablative. She lives is not showing motion towards something. It's going to be probably more a location within which. So I'm going to kind of keep the red over here, our ablative color, ready to label that as ablative, but we're going to look at some other things first. We're going to look at this word via real quick. So via, what is this word? Via is a word that means way, like the way, the road, the street, the journey. And this, it's a first declension noun, so it's via vi. So this form right here is either the nominative singular or it's the ablative singular. We already have Virgo as the subject of the verb here. So via isn't going to be another just random nominative singular. It's going to have to be an ablative. So this right here, Virgo in question mark, via vivid, this is going to be the main kind of clause, the main question here. So that means that this right here is going to need to be a relative, or not relative, sorry, an interrogative adjective or an interrogative pronoun. Let's put int right here. And we're essentially asking the question, when you have in right here with an ablative, it does not always mean in. It can also be on. So it's in, either inside of something, within which, or on something. Ablative is used sometimes for location, not at someplace. That's a different thing. That's locative. But like location within something, location on something. Okay. So the we're going to need an ablative form, an ablative singular form of our interrogative pronoun here. Let me pull out our chart. So via is feminine. We're talking about on which road, but all the singular ablative forms are the same, so it doesn't really matter what the gender is this time. So we need quo here. In quo. So the main clause is the maiden on which road, made that on which road she lives. So does she live? On which road does she live? So that's our main clause. This right here, our little relative clause. Day, that is another ablative preposition. It only goes with ablative. So we know that this is going to be an ablative singular, but we need to find an ablative feminine singular of the relative. So let's pull up that chart. In this case, with the relative, it does matter. Qua rather than quo. So virgo de qua digibus, in quo via vivit. So the maiden, let's translate this into English, the maiden about whom you were speaking on which road does she, the maiden, live? All right, let's look at a couple more sentences. Gloria Regu whose, let me make that up here, whose urbis Waleband Saipe est perpetua. It's kind of a long one this time, but we only have one mystery pronoun up here. We don't have a question mark, and so I feel confident saying this is a relative pronoun. Okay, RP. It's a relative pronoun. Let's look for some verbs here. We've got two. We've got est down here. This is the third person singular form of sum esse, present active indicative. So he, she, it is. We need to find who that third person singular is, what the subject is of that verb right there. We also have walemant. That is a third person. It's a plural. And it comes from waleo walere, which is a second conjugation verb, meaning to be well, to be strong. So they, we need to find a third person plural to know who they are. They, and that BA right there is telling me we are an imperfect. So they were being strong. They used to be strong. They used to be well. They were well. They used to be well. Okay. So we can go ahead and say bloop. This is going to be right here where this pronoun is to this verb right here. that is a relative clause. We can take that out so that we can look at that independently in a moment here. And we can look at our Gloria regnum saepe est perpetua, our main clause here, translate our main clause, and then look at and translate our relative clause. So we have a verb here, est, that means is. We need to find a subject for that. Gloria here is our most likely subject. That's from Gloria, Gloriae, glory. That's either going to be the ablative form or the nominative singular form. There's nothing here to tell us that it's going to be anything other than the nominative singular. There's no preposition. There's no verb that is separation. So there's no reason for that to be anything other than nominative. So the glory. So glory or the glory. Okay, so the glory is perpetua. This is an adjective meaning perpetual, long lasting, and it is modifying Gloria up there. So we have a predicate nominative here, Gloria est perpetua. The glory is perpetual, it's continuous, it's lasting. We'll say lasting. Okay, so there's our kernel. The glory is lasting. So what kind of glory? So regum right here, that's from rex regis, which is the king. This is the genitive plural form because rex regum is that is a third declension. And this right here is the genitive plural form for third declension. So of the kings, perhaps of the crown, we'll just say of the kings for now. So the glory of the kings is lasting. Saepe right here, saepe is an adverb, and it means often. So the glory of the kings is often is lasting, everlasting, perpetual, continuous, uninterrupted. Okay. So now we have our full sentence. We have our kernel here. Might have a little bit of space right there to write it when we're done. I took up the whole page this time. I wrote real big. So whose urbis valebant? All right, so urbis is a third declension noun meaning the city. This is the nominative plural or the accusative plural form. So I'm going to go ahead and say that this could be either. We could take it as the subject here of Walibant, or we could take it as the object of Walibant. So kind of depends on what we do up here with whose, with this pronoun, with this relative pronoun. So our relative pronoun needs to have an antecedent. So let's find our antecedent. Blammo. The kings are our antecedent. So what do we know about relative pronouns is that they need to match in gender and number. So we need to have a masculine, because rex regis is masculine, and plural form of the relative pronoun here. So the kings are who we're referring to here with this. So if we take the kings as the kings as the subject here, or yeah, the kings as the subject of Walibon, they are cities. That doesn't make sense. So we need to take urbis here as the nominative plural and our our relative pronoun here, sorry, I'm like scrambling for words today. Our relative pronoun here is going to be our genitive plural. It does not always need to match in case, but sometimes it does. Whose here is possessive. We're going to have a plural masculine genitive form of qui, quai, quod, of our relative pronouns. Let's find that on our chart. Masculine, plural, quorum. Because the cities are what need to be strong. So of whose cities are strong. So the glory of the kings, whose cities, urbs, urbis is cities, whose cities, they were strong, was often everlasting. All right, so I don't have quite enough room to write it all out, but the sentence is, the glory of the kings, whose cities were strong, they used to be strong, often is everlasting. So the glory is everlasting, the glory of whom? Of the kings. Why? Whose cities were strong, or they used to be strong. Okay, let's look at the next sentence. This is the last sentence we're going to do for today. So C, whoops, pen. C, Poteros. My goodness. Oh, apologies. I had a camera battery die on me. Anyway, so C, Poteros. Trahere. I'm gonna have to swap my pen out. Maybe it's the paper. Si trahere has sententias sunt pauca which non poteris dicere. Non poteris dicere. My goodness, that's a long one. Let's find all these verbs here, okay? A good place to start. Poteras, that is a verb. Trahere, that's a verb. Sunt, that's a verb. Poteris, verb. Dicere, verb. Okay. We'll start up here. We're going to make this. There's going to be multiple clauses here. All right. We'll start here. Poteris trahere here. This is a complementary infinitive. Complementary because one completes the other. Okay, poteros, this is a second person singular from possum, posse. This is an imperfect active indicative. So second person, that's you. You were, you used to be able. So possum, posse, that's to be able. You will say you used to be able. So we take things like this along with the the infinitive here. The infinitive, that's the second principal part of the verb. Trahere here, that is to derive, to draw, to drag, to get. We'll use it, how do we want to use it? We'll use it to derive, to draw, to draw, to draw. So you take these two together. This here completes the meaning. You used to be able to draw, you used to be able to derive, you used to be able to drag, to get. Has, this is an accusative here. So this is a demonstrative pronoun, meaning like this, it comes from hic, haec, hoc. This is the plural feminine accusative form, so these. So it's the object here of potras trahere. So you used to be able to draw these. These and these what? Sententias. So this is from sententia, sententiae. So it's like sentences. Can also be like meanings. We'll take it as just sentences / meanings for right now. Ooh, thoughts too. Okay, we'll say sentences. We'll use sentences or thoughts. Okay, and this also is sententia, sententiae. That's a first declension feminine. So this is the accusative plural form. Okay. See here, this is I believe it's an adverb. It serves many different purposes in sentence. In this sentence, it's serving the purpose of a conjunction. So if or if only, whether. So we'll go with if. So we'll mark that as a conjunction. So if you used to be able to draw these sentences / thoughts. All right, let's go to the next. Sunt pauca, and then our relative pronoun here. We don't have a question mark, so we're going to have a relative pronoun, not an interrogative. Sunt pauca non posteris dicere. So let's start with our verb over here. Non poteris. Okay, so we had poteros. Now we have poteris. We had an imperfect, and now we have a future active indicative. Again, second person singular. You will not be able. And then dicere, that is the infinitive for dico, dicere. So to speak, to say, to tell. So you will not be able to speak. So they are few. They meaning probably referring back to the sentences, thoughts. They are few. Within the same clause or the same sentence, you need to have the subject of a verb be in the nominative, but kind of like the relative pronoun. If you have another clause, if you have another thing like this, your verb can refer back to something that's not in the nominative. Pauca here is it's another adjective. Paucus, pauca, paucum means few, small. And this is going to be either the nominative singular form, the neuter plural form, or the feminine ablative form. So we have to figure out, ooh, what is it? we need to divide this second clause here into an even smaller one, or into even more. So we have our relative clause right here. They are few, kind of referring, kind of a little bit impersonal here. They are few because this right here does not really refer to anything at this point. It's more of a, because it would be, in order to be right here, it would have to be a neuter plural, and we don't have anything else that's neuter in the sentence, so it's kind of an impersonal here. They are few, the things, and then what this right here, our relative pronoun, is referring to the few things which you are not able to speak. So I'm going to tap in here. Why? Okay. If you used to be able to draw these sentences out, they are few. They are few, which you will not be able to speak. So if you were able to write them, you would be able to, were able to write them, draw them, you will be able to speak them. There are a few you will not be able to speak, which is another way of saying you will be able to do this, right? All right, that's all the sentences for today.